if he's got no issues, he's got no temptation, he is a superhero. No, we're men just like you. So never put a man of God on a pedestal. Never put a pastor, preacher, apostle, doctor, reverend, whatever they want to call themselves. Yes. Never put any man on a pedestal. The only one that should be on a pedestal in your life is God. I'm going to say it again. The only one that should be on a pedestal in your life is God. Because I'm a man just like you. I will mess up. Catch me on the wrong day on a basketball court. God told Abraham at 85. Now, you could imagine, Ishmael is born. You're looking at now, in chapter 21, we see God coming in chapter 18, telling Abraham, by this time next year, this child will be born. Chapter 20, we see the promise almost being fulfilled. By chapter 21, the year had gone. Because in chapter 20, God protected Sarah from having sex with Abimelech, or protected Abimelech from taking Sarah as his wife. Could you imagine the Jerry-type saga that would take place if Abimelech took Sarah? Y'all young, y'all don't understand. Because some of us would have to have Abraham and Abimelech come on the Jerry Springer show or the Maury Povich show to be able to determine who is the father. But God kept Abimelech from sleeping with Sarah to be able to protect the seed, where now Abraham has no doubt that Isaac is his son. Because from the time that God spoke to him, the following year, Abraham had already left his location to be able to go to where Abimelech was, Gerar, to be able to be with him. So now you're looking at God protected Sarah from having sex with Abimelech. Now Abraham knows that, listen, this is the Lord's doing. Because by that time next year, sure enough, God told Abraham, this time next year, I will return to you, and Sarah, your wife, will have a son. Would you really trust God if God told you this? How many of us would truly trust the Lord if he said, this time next year, this is what's getting ready to happen in your life? You don't have to act crazy. This time next year, this is going to happen. But some of us would still doubt God and still want to do our own thing. But what I love about this is the fact that while Abraham messed up a few times, and we could attest to that, Abraham messed up a few times. But yet when it came to the vow that God gave to Abraham, God told Abraham, everyone in your house has to be circumcised. And every newborn male child has to be circumcised on the 8th day. That's crazy. This is going to come back later on. Because I want you to understand, just in case you don't know, our Lord God, the creator of heaven and earth, the one that breathed life into you, has a sense of humor. How is a woman that's 90 years old going to be pregnant with a child? That's crazy. That's crazy. If you don't mind, I'm going to ask Sister Geralda. Yes. She said, would you mind standing up real quick? Real quick. Could you imagine Sister Geralda? She's getting ready to stand up right here, walking around with her belly, telling you that she's pregnant. I got you. Could you imagine? Could you imagine? You come to church and you see her with a belly. Thank you, Sister Geralda. Somebody's going to have to get some type of section. Somebody's going to have to not take communion anymore. somebody's going to have to sit down and not be able to do anything because we're like, yo, how did this happen? But yet at 90 years old, God has a sense of, God has such a sense. He waits till you can't do anything anymore. That's when he shows up. When you give up, that's when he pops up. When you have no hope, this is when he's like, I'm the hope of hopes. Sarah, I want you to understand how God planned this, because Sarah could have easily gotten pregnant at 55. To us, I'm like, you know what? I've seen 50-year-old getting pregnant. Oh, yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that. You know, I think, you know, Pastor Mark's mom had you at what, 45? 43. You know, so it's not that bad. If she takes care of herself and, you know, she's healthy and she still has her regular cycle, she can get pregnant again. But yet at 90, the Bible said, even when God came the year before, the Bible said Sarah looked, and you know, when God came to Abraham, Sarah said, I have no feeling for men anymore. He's like, I don't have any type of feeling for men, and my husband really is not doing anything anymore either. For me to get pregnant? He's like, God, you crazy. And she laughed. Let me teach you in here today, there's nothing impossible for God.